daisies on it, even birds of a feather show their clothes off together. Suns get and shuddering to spotlight the finery. It's life, life, life. In his hole, though the gopher seems a bit of a loafer, the industrious beaver puts it down to spring fever. While there's no antelope who feels that he can't elope, it's life, life, life. So but surely the turtle, who's enormously fertile, lays her eggs by the dozens. Maybe some are her cousins. Even the catamount is nonplussed at that amount. It's life, life, life.
Even out in Australia, the kangaroos lay a butter fat and all French fries. If their offspring are large, it might be dangerous. They've just got to keep a pocket size. Even though to a rabbit swing is more like a habit, notwithstanding the fact is they indulge in the practice. Each day is Mother's Day, the next day some other's day. It's life, life, life.
To itself, each amoeba softly croons off to leave a while the proud little termite feels as large as a worm might. Old Papa Dragonfly is making his wagon fly. It's life, life, life. Every bug snuggles snuggy in its own baby buggy, and in spite of policing, seems the tribe is increasing. 'Cause Mrs. Katy once did what her matey did. It's life, life, life. Daddy Longlegs is stretching out his creaky joints, and how busy can a bumblebee be? Flitting hither and thither, she keeps singing joys with a spare room and a nursery. Each cocoon has a tenant, so they hung out a pennant. Don't disturb, please keep waiting, we are evacuating. This home's my mama's all, soon have my old domicile. It's life, life, life.
Well, good morning. And welcome to the First Unitarian Church. Welcome on this bright blue Sunday morn. We gather here quietly assembled, bringing our public faces, bringing our personal secrets, bringing our shared humanity. We gather here gently assembled, seeking deeper understanding, seeking the nourishment of our spirits, seeking the grace of being together. We gather here amazingly assembled, giving thanks for one another, praising the gift of life, and remembering our responsibility to serve all of humankind. Symbol of light and of knowledge, symbol of warmth and freedom. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. Here we gather to celebrate hope and the infinite possibilities of love. May we open our service, turning our hymn books, please, for the first 4 verses, number 78.
I invite you now into a spirit of reverence as you consider these words from the Reverend Victoria Safford. What if there were a universe, a cosmos, that began in shining blackness, out of nothing, out of fire, out of a single silent breath, and into it came billions and billions of stars, stars beyond imagining, and near one of them, a world, a blue-green world, so beautiful that learned clergy could not even speak of it. And brilliant scientists, in trying to describe it, sound like poets with their physics, with their mathematics, their empirical, impressionistic musing. If such a universe existed and you noticed it, what would you do? What song would come out of your mouth? What prayer? What praises? What sacred offering? What whirling dance? What religion? And what reverential gesture would you make to greet that world every single day that you were in it? Let us join together in silent wondering. May this spirit of wonder be close at hand throughout this hour and in the days to come. Blessed be.
Mysterious grace lies a song, a silent prayer wakens miracles, the journey of creation begun. I hear the universe sing a live on. I add my voice to the chorus of flashing lights of splendor. The creation lies before us. Fire and ice, light and color, I know to its mysterious grace. Majestic mountains and rolling oceans, earthly gardens surrounded by amaze
Well, it's an easy step from Amazing Wonder to the Lyrebird. And I want to just start off by asking how many of you are familiar with the Lyrebird? Anybody? Well, of course you are now. Get out of here. You cheated. You're in for a treat. Let me just quickly set the stage because you will be hearing the Lyrebird song. And the lyrebird, who has beautiful feathers to begin with, and when it's time for mating, he just fans those feathers, and they're gorgeous, but that is not enough. He still has to impress the ladies, let us say, and so what he does is he has a phenomenal repertoire and a fantastic ability to echo the sounds that he hears in the forest. And so he can mimic virtually every other songbird to the point where that other species will be attracted to because he does such a good job impersonating them. But he does not only natural sounds, he also does unnatural sounds. You're going to hear him good heavens, you're going to hear him mimic you're going to think, oh goodness, there's a tourist nearby. It's not. It is the lyrebird who is mimicking the sound of a camera shutter. He also does the camera's mechanical drive. You're going to hear a car alarm. That's the lyrebird imitating a car alarm. And then for his grand finale, he imitates a forester using a chainsaw. And it starts off with there's a BBC naturalist, and it's clear, but I just want to make sure that you understand that he's talking about how does he explain it? That the lyrebird is setting the stage to attract a mate, and well, you'll hear the rest yourself. So the lyrebird is going to enter.
bird has the most elaborate, the most complex, the most beautiful song in the world? Well, I guess there are lots of contenders, but this bird must be one of them. The superb lyrebird of Southern Australia. He clears a space in the forest to serve as his concert platform. To persuade females to come close and admire his plumes, he sings the most complex song he can manage, and he does that by copying the songs of all the other birds he hears around him, such as the kookaburra. It's a very convincing impersonation. Even the original is fooled. He can imitate the calls of at least 20 different species. He also, in his attempt to outsing his rivals, incorporates other sounds that he hears in the forest. That was a camera shutter. And again. And now a camera with a motor drive. And that's a car alarm. And now the sounds of foresters and their chainsaws working nearby.
When the little bluebird, who has never said a word, starts to sing spring, spring. When the little blue bell in the bottom of the dell starts to ring, ding, ding. When the little blue clerk in the middle of his work sings a song to the moon up above. It's just nature, that's all, simply telling us to fall in love. And that's why
Birds do it, bees do it, even educated things do it. Let's do it, let's fall in love. Romantic sponges, they say,
I don't know, choir, you're on to something. I know you are. And Becky Hill, thank you for being our soloist this morning. Well, nothing can change the mood faster than announcements. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Please note, again, all the fascinating options that our congregation offers in terms of adult education, in terms of socializing, getting together with one another. It's really chock full of wonderful, wonderful opportunities. Let me make some quick time-related announcements. First, this Sunday, tonight at 7:30, we're going to start our 29th season of Jazz Vespers. And we're going to pay a tribute to Ella Fitzgerald, and it's going to be a really good program. Come if you can. I'd advise getting here earlier than the 7:30 showtime because, yeah, it's pretty successful. Also, in case you are the only person left in all of Salt Lake City who doesn't know what's happening next Saturday, or I should say this coming Saturday, November 4th, it's going to be the First Unitarian Church auction down at Trolley Square. And if, perchance, you have failed to get a ticket, please, immediately after the service, go right to the auction table. Purchase a ticket for an absolutely splendid evening filled with celebrities, a scrumptious dinner, and just a whole lot of fun. And yeah, it's going to be great. And the tickets are $60. If $60 pose a stretch to your budget, then just please see me after the service and just whisper in my ear or whatever, and you will be there, because we want everyone in this community to take part in the auction. If you're relatively new, what a great way to come and learn more about this congregation. Last but not least, it's a wonderful announcement. It's kind of a congregation pat yourself on the back kind of announcement. Every year, the magazine Q, Salt Lake City, offers awards. They call, for fabulous, restaurants, fabulous pizza places, fabulous boutiques. It goes on. They call them the Fabby Awards. There is one church that got the Fabby Award for the most Fabby church. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in the Fabby Church this morning. And just one last note, if you read the fine print in your orders of service, do not read it this morning. Normally it says if you are a guest this morning, feel free, there's no obligation to contribute to the offering. We have new personnel. Jenny, after 12 years, has gone on to greener pastures. And the new person, who is wonderful, Stephanie Park, is learning. And she just made it a generic, please feel no obligation to contribute. We will discuss this tomorrow morning. So at this time, the Fabby offering will gratefully be received, a chance to greet one another and bid each other a good morning. Don't we all engage in fascinating rituals while preparing to go out on a date? We want to look our best. And much like the lyrebird we heard this morning, it is our intent to make a really good impression. And regardless if it's same-sex attraction or opposite sex, we go through certain procedures or rites in order to make our own inimitable mark on the person we're going to date. We want to be as fetching as possible. In my household, Mary and I make a distinction between just going out or going out on a date. We spend a little extra time getting ready for a date. Maybe we do so out of habit, but when we're out on the town, I want others to think she made a really good choice. So, interested in the preparatory processes by which others abide before going out on a date, I actually Googled how to prepare for a date. One site told me, look your best, pick out a good outfit ahead of time, take a shower or bath, shave or trim if necessary, brush teeth, style your hair, apply makeup, and wear minimal fragrance. Another site recommended pretty much the same, but added, wear matching lingerie. We're getting a little closer to the topic at hand here. Now, this site also recommended smelling your own armpits. I was surprised that everybody didn't do this instinctively, but there it goes. It's an instruction. And yet, another site advised to add a little more product to make your hair a bit stylized. And I learned on this site a woman's perspective, that the more you prep, moisturize, tweeze, shave, makeup, etc., the more confident you will feel on a date. Well, regardless which species we're talking about, there's a need to be eye-catching in the selection of a mate. It also helps if you are confident. In our current era of online dating, I've heard more anxiety expressed about selecting the right photo for one's portfolio than any other concern. Within the norm of human culture, it's usually the male who decides to move to the next step after exchanging multiple introductory emails. And this is perhaps why the online dating service called Bumble has become such a sensation. It's the woman who decides on the selection or whether or not to discard a male suitor altogether. This is more in keeping with, say, the lyrebird, and also the mating rituals of the blue-footed booby, seabirds that have a highly ritualized courtship in which the male must impress the female or move on. Here's an example of blue-footed booby dating rituals. The male faces the female and slowly lifts up one foot, sets it down, slowly lifts up the other foot. He seems to be saying, check out my feet. They're really, really, really blue. And she, in turn, mirrors his ponderous moves. So far, so good. And then he spreads his wings wide, points his bill to the sky, and whistles breathlessly as if blowing on a toy flute. God, what a male won't go through is amazing. If she likes his whistle, she will totter up to him and they clack bills. He grabs a pebble and they clack bills again. He drops the pebble and spears a twig. Clack, whistle, grunt, whistle. And suddenly, she backs away. Desperate, the male solemnly starts high-stepping again, displaying his beautiful teal blue feet. But the courtship has fizzled. The female lifts but one foot in response as though waving goodbye. Maybe his feet weren't clean enough, or he was wearing too much fragrance, or he should have wetted his whistle to appear extra sharp. Mating is complicated for every species, but lately there has been a new twist. But actually, it's not all that new, because Charles Darwin knew about it, but kept it under wraps because he was fearful it was just too radical, too revolutionary. His forgotten theory has now been updated. Ornithologists and even evolutionary biologists have re-examined Darwin's theory about beauty. It's actually the kind of beauty that makes a bird think, oh, he's really hot. This is the guy I desire. The idea is that when they are choosing mates, and in birds it's mostly the female who chooses, animals make choices that can only be called aesthetic. They perceive a kind of beauty. They desire that beauty. And I'm using the word desire deliberately, as scientists are now discovering that to be the case. The female birds desire beauty, mostly in the form of fancy feathers. You know, I can understand it. I mean, I admit when a peacock fans his feathers, even I feel a bit wowed. You know, this guy is really beautiful. It's just amazing. What makes the appreciation of beauty among birds so wondrous, and even arouses in them a sense of desire, is that the mainstream view had always insisted that the male is chosen for his fitness. The female wants a mate who will offer the offspring good genes, good health, so on and so forth. Not true. The female is not that utilitarian. As Darwin wrote, the notion of beauty is subjective, with no other meaning than its aesthetic appeal. The yearning to pick your own mate is not something that began with humans. It can be found in ducks, pheasants, and many other creatures. Freedom of choice matters to animals. Freedom of choice. It sounds so Unitarian, doesn't it? And of course, Charles Darwin was raised a Unitarian in England at that time, when it was still illegal to gather as a Unitarian congregation. Beauty. Animals have an eye for beauty. Now, I don't think anyone knows quite what this really means, but perhaps more than humans can relate to the sentiment or the appreciation of beauty as expressed by the Irish poet John O'Donoghue in his book called Beauty, the Invisible Embrace. He writes, "We feel most alive in the presence of the beautiful, for it meets the needs of our soul. Without beauty, the search for truth, the desire for goodness, and the love of order and unity would be sterile exploits. Beauty," he says, "beauty brings warmth, elegance, and grandeur." The lyrebird offers his stunning audio performance so that the female will look at him and perceive the beauty in his tail. In other words, it's just a gimmick. That's why he does all this stuff in the forest, all these vocalizations. It's just a gimmick so that she will notice that he is even there. May she find in him warmth, elegance, and grandeur. The American historian Frederick Turner wrote that beauty is the highest integrative level of understanding and the most comprehensive capacity for effective action. It enables us to go with rather than against the deepest tendency or theme of the universe. Beauty as theme of the universe. And I really like that concept of beauty as a theme for the universe. I mean, when we're out hiking, for example, don't we stop now and again simply to take in the beauty? You know, we muddle along our trail and suddenly, pow, it hits us. We're brought up short. Our soul is filled. We catch a glimpse of what we think is the sacred. The artist Paul Klee famously said, color links us with cosmic regions. So intrinsic to this notion of beauty, even in the eye of an animal, is beauty, desire. Beauty and desire are coupled. I sometimes think that as human beings, we are too embarrassed to even contemplate other species having desire. In his research, Darwin actually tried to explain away this desire. He proposed the idea of evolution by natural selection, or what is referred to as survival of the fittest. And of course, we know how this works. Living things vary in their inherited traits. The traits of the individuals who survive longer and have the most offspring become more common. And so over time, the faster antelope will have more young, and the fastest of them have more offspring, and thus antelopes end up being very, very fast. But reproduction is not just about survival and staying healthy long enough to mate. In many species, your mate must choose you. And this process is known as sexual selection. Wow. Kind of makes you think about adding a little more product to your hair, doesn't it? Get a little stylized, why not? And female birds are often the ones choosing. And their choices can produce male birds that are incredibly colorful, and some who are elaborate dancers, and still others who really know how to decorate a boudoir. The male bowerbird in New Guinea and Australia will decorate the nest with sticks and brightly colored objects. I've seen one photo of a bowerbird who lined his nest with green-colored glass. And he also picked up some random objects to make the nest more attractive, probably something left over by a tourist, like a cuddly toy elephant. Just put it there in his nest. And then on top of that, what's he going to do? He's going to dance, produce wheezing sounds from his throat. I could never compete. Darwin contended that selection-based mate choice was different from natural selection because females were often making decisions based on what looks good. Make their decisions on beauty as they perceive it, not on survival or some objective quality like speed or strength or something like that. Darwin was completely unsatisfied with his own work on sexual selection. And today, most evolutionary biologists would agree to some extent that yes, females do make arbitrary choices. beauty, desire. The science supports it. Now, the great rabbi and philosopher Abraham Heschel wrote that awareness of the divine begins with wonder. It is a result of what humans do with their higher incomprehensions. And so, yeah, we wonder a lot. We wonder about all that eludes our understanding. Sexual selection in the wider animal kingdom fills me with wonder. In order to be subjective about beauty, doesn't there need to be a sense of oneself? After all, it is I who find you beautiful. I'm filled with wonder. Does the lyrebird or the bowerbird or the blue-footed booby, do they consciously make a decision? I choose you because for me, you are so beautiful. Alfred North Whitehead noted that all philosophy begins in wonder. And then he added, at the end, when philosophic thought has done its best, the wonder remains. Beauty and wonder are forever linked. They comprise the theme of the universe. A stunning vista fills us with wonder, connecting us to what we feel is the divine which naturally is steeped in wonder. But also the animal kingdom, including Homo sapiens, want to be beautiful for their mate. So what do? We preen and we match our lingerie. We do God knows what with our hair, make efforts to smell nice. We might even dance, release sounds we didn't know we could produce, and make that hoped-for boudoir look especially inviting. Why do we do this? Why do we want to be noticed for our beauty? What kind of beauty arouses our desire? How do we make sexual selections? It fills us with wonder, does it not? It fills us with wonder.